Welcome to the Resonate podcast with Aideen. I'm Aideen Riada, and my guest today is guitar virtuoso Pat Coldrick. Welcome.
Thank you, Aideen.
It's great to have you here. Your story is going to definitely resonate with all of the listeners for this podcast, and I can't wait to share it with them. But let me read a little from your bio just to set the scene. So, Pat Coldrick is a guitarist and composer who has been working for the last 6 years in Ireland, but has also performed recitals in Europe, the USA, and Russia. Pat has been described as pushing the boundaries of classical guitar with his musical interpretations and compositions, and has made classical guitar exciting, interesting, and more accessible to music lovers in general. I think your story goes back further than 6 years. Why is it that you've mentioned 6 years in this particular bio, Pat?
Well, the past 6 years have been really successful. Kind of a culmination of all the kind of work I've been putting back into my music since I came back to the guitar about 10, 12 years ago. And so, yeah, it's been a very interesting 6 years. Playing a lot of concerts in England and around the world, and here also in Ireland, where I played in the National Concert Hall with the RTE Concert Orchestra, a sellout concert, which was great. So the last 6 years are really kind of been really fantastic for me and my music, it kind of has, I've more or less established myself as a player on the scene. And that's one thing I've noticed over the past 6 years.
That's so interesting. And it's so interesting how, in your own mind, that's when you started, according to what you've written here for your bio. When I know, and we've spoken about this, that things really changed for you quite a while ago in 2012. Let's go back a little further, though, and talk about your beginnings with guitar and how you got, how your life, got diverted away from guitar for such a long time. Because I know many people love creativity, or they may love an instrument, or they may love something, but they are told to get the proper job, or you can't make a career out of that, or get discouraged in some way. And your story is a testimony to it's never too late. So let's tell them a little bit about that beginning for you. You started playing guitar at a very young age, I believe.
Well, make yourself a cup of tea and sit back for this one. This is a long one. Yeah, I more or less was fascinated with the guitar. I think it was about 12 or 13, and it was really I never really came from a musical stock as such. I was into playing all sorts of sports and like any 12, 13-year-old. And I remember this clearly one Sunday morning going out, and on the radio I heard this music, and I just stopped, and anyway, it was the great Segovia playing a piece of music, and it was like, it was incredible, and I had to find out what this was. But back in 1972, we didn't have internet, or barely had, you were very posh if you had a record player and things like that. But I managed to sort of suss it all out, and decided to, I want this. This is what I want to do. I have to do this. I have to find out how this is done. And I remember going and buying myself a guitar. It was £3. It was a cheap toy guitar, and I literally taught myself how to play, and spent hours and hours and hours every day with the guitar, and just totally and utterly fell in love with it. But as the years went by, then I bought books, and I'm self-taught basically. I never really went to college until later on. And when I was 18, 19, I joined various bands as well. I played, just to stay in the kind of realm of music. I joined various show bands around Ireland and played electric guitar, and got used to playing in front of audiences, and got to know. I learned how to entertain a crowd, which is a very important thing. I mean, at the end of the day, a guitar recital or any classical music recital, it is entertainment. it's not an education. You don't try and educate your audience. You entertain them with the music you play and the way you approach it and the way you put it across. So that's really where I kind of come from. But anyway, I decided when I was about 18 to I better go to college and learn this instrument properly if I want to kind of become a classical guitarist to a standard where I can go out and play in public. And I had a bad experience really in college because everything I had learned, my technique and the way I played, was kind of all wrong. The music, the way I interpreted various pieces was wrong, and I remember even failing grade 3 guitar because I put in a bar of music into a Bach bourrée, which wasn't even there, but I just thought it sounded nice, and I got slated for it. And I says, "Oh my God, I'm sort of much freer with the music. I see music on a page, and if I like it, and if I want to add to it or take something away from it to do my own interpretation of that piece, I will do it. I don't play exactly what's on the page." And people might say that's disrespectful, but I've been doing it all my life, and people sort of love it. But anyway, I got a bit disillusioned in college. I was there for a couple of years, and I said, "Oh God, I couldn't play the way they wanted me to play." And I did win the Festival way back then as well. I got the highest marks ever in guitar. I think I got 98% out of 100 playing a particular piece my way, and didn't get slated for it. But I felt I was never going to make it as a guitarist because I wasn't really trained properly classically.
Yes, I just wanted to reflect on that a little bit because there can be some, ideals, I suppose you could say, in certain genres of music. And that can be a big barrier to people starting to learn an instrument, where you feel like you have to do scales for the first 3 years or whatever. What would you say to someone who is that wants to explore music and can feel that as a barrier for themselves?
I would say to them is to forget it, and do whatever your heart tells you to do. Music at the end of the day is a language. It's an art form. It's an expressive tool that we say we as humans can use and access to. We'll say describe themselves, and also to sort of put across to others. Use it as a language, and it's very important that you have an individuality in music. You have a style. I mean, there are so many players that if you listen to them, they all sound brilliant, but they all sound the same. It's very important to have your own identity as a musician or as an artist. And I think sometimes I may get criticized for this. If you go through the college methods, the academic methods too rigorously, you can end up losing a lot of your individual flair by, we'll say, playing the music as it sort of technically should be on the piece of paper, on the sheet music. Where don't be afraid of somebody saying, "Oh, well, if you play it your own way, you'll be slated and critics will have a feast day on you." No, I've done this for years, and all I've got was praise from critics, praise from the Classical Guitar magazine, but this guy Pat Coldrick with his interpretation of these pieces are wonderful, refreshing. So I would say I play the way I hear it in my head and the way it's natural to me, and I would say that to any musician. To whatever way you want to portray it, do it the way you want to do it, and use the music, use the melody as a guide, and rearrange it in such a way that it becomes part of you, and it's comfortable for you to portray that music.
But at the time, you didn't have the confidence to
No.
do that as a young person, and I think a lot of young people.
Yeah.
Need encouragement at that age rather than criticism,
Yeah.
but they don't always get it, obviously.
Yeah.
So what happened for you then? I know you gave up basically.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Yeah, I was younger then and probably a little naive, and I didn't have the we'll say the strength of character than I do now. Maybe if somebody who was an expert in music and guitar was telling me this back then, I said, okay, well, these people know their stuff. So, so I ended up packing it in. Yeah, I got so disillusioned, and I had spent a large part of my life from about 12, 13 years of age to about 20, 23, 24, playing guitar non-stop. So I took a complete break. I stopped, took up woodwork, believe it or not. I taught myself how to do woodwork and wood carving, excuse me, and fell in love with that too. um, and I worked, I set up my own business, and I was very, very successful. I loved to do woodwork, and again, it was a kind of another, would say, avenue of creation or a creative way to sort of put myself across. So I was enjoying that, but I never even talked about guitar, talked about music. People that I knew through the woodwork and through life, those years from about 26 to about 49, I never even knew I played guitar or ever played guitar. I just completely stopped. So, but unfortunately, the business I had developed, the woodwork business, crashed in the recession 2007, 2008, and I never thought it would, but so did an awful lot of people with their own particular businesses that failed. And I was kind of left, oh, didn't expect that one. And I was left kind of, what do I do now? So it was an interesting time for me. It was like a crossroads in my life, because I remember saying to the good Lord up there at 14, 15 years of age, says, please God, all I want to do in life is make me good enough to play guitar, classical guitar, good enough to play in front of people. I wanted that so, so much. And I prayed for it. And it's funny how God works in mysterious ways. And what I did was I got so kind of depressed and disillusioned at 49, and I had no money at all. I'd lost everything. And I says, what am I going to do? So I decided to take the guitar back out of the attic and go busking up Grafton Street, just literally, not to show people how good I was, because I wasn't. I hadn't played in 25 years, but just to make enough money to get to tomorrow and decide to see, I said to myself, this recession won't last very long. It'll only last about a few months and I'll be back up in business again.
One thing I read an article about you in the Irish Independent online, and you mentioned that before you even took the guitar out of the attic, you hadn't actually even thought of guitar yet. That that trying to reconnect with an old friend was really the way that I thought that was an interesting story. I'd love you to tell that, because sometimes we're trying to logically find our way through life, and we're trying to follow the breadcrumbs. And somehow your life was changed dramatically because of this story. And I'd love for you to tell that story to my listeners, if you don't mind.
Sure. This really was the changing point. A lot of things started happening at that time. I was at an all-time low. I was busking up on Grafton Street. I'd literally, for a couple of weeks, and I was quite amazed actually the way people took to me, and was wondering who I was and how can you play at that level and you're only playing on the street. But I was amazed that people sort of thought I was any good. But the strange thing that happened during that time was, I was just on the internet one night, and I was kind of, for some reason, I decided to look up an old friend, as you do, and what they're doing now. And I went out a girl way back in 1978, 79, 80, that around that time, probably first serious relationship, and we were madly in love and all that. And but things sort of just didn't work out in the end. She moved back to England, and I went on with my life, and we just lost contact for so many years. And I just said, I'd like to get in touch with her again and see how things are and how her life is. She's married now, and just for something. And I never really thought about her until that moment. And when I looked her up and eventually found a death notice, I found out that she died only 6 months previous to me looking her up. And I was really kind of, I was just blown away. It was the first person that read close to me that had ever died. And it was a strange sort of a feeling, and a very sad feeling. And all these memories started flowing back, because this lovely girl knew how much the guitar meant to me, and how much music meant to me. And I'm not a composer, or I wasn't then, but I remember sitting down one night and taking the guitar out and thinking about her and thinking of the great times we had together, and I was playing away, and all of a sudden this piece sort of came to me, and I wasn't sort of mourning. It wasn't a sadness. It was a kind of it was a nice feeling of hadn't we great times together, and wasn't I so lucky to have met that person for 5 years of my life. And in the background, a piece was writing itself, which is now called the Lament. It's the first piece I ever wrote. I had never any idea that it would have the effect on people that it had, but when I recorded it on my Cayendo album and put it out there, that everybody kept gravitating towards this piece, Lament. It has sold thousands of copies around the world. It opened up a whole new world for me. I got invited onto the Late Late Show here in Ireland, onto radio stations, because this piece is really about, not a piece about sadness, it's really a piece to remind people that our loved ones who are gone are not gone. They are there with us in spirit, and very, very much with us. And I remember, if I may just say this one thing, I remember being on the radio one morning playing this piece, and literally the phones jammed with people ringing in. People pulled in cars. They really gravitated toward this piece of music. One lady texted in to say that she was in depths of depression for 2 years. Her baby had died, and she was there at the kitchen sink washing her dishes. This is a fact. I have the email. And she said a cloud lifted from her shoulders when she heard that piece of music. And I've met that lady since, and it's incredible the power of music, how healing it can be. But that experience kind of launched me into a whole new world of, gosh, maybe I'm not as bad as I think I am musically. And I felt I started to felt this confidence grow again in my playing, that, gosh, if what I play and what I do is having this effect on people, let's carry on with this, So it was I do firmly believe that girl up there, through some spiritual way, guided me back to music and the guitar, and gave me the confidence to keep going and reestablish myself and live my dreams, basically. This is what I'm doing for the last 10 years, which is what I say to people. Never, ever, as long as you're fit and healthy, your dream, go for them. Go and grab that dream. Age is only a number. And particularly with music or art, you can create music and art until you're 110 years of age, in my opinion.
I love that idea, and I get behind that 100%. I just thought that I just think that that's an amazing story, and
All true.
yeah. So if anyone is listening and you have that emptiness, because it can feel like an emptiness when we're not expressing ourselves fully.
Yes. That's an interesting point, Aideen. There's an emptiness when you're not expressing yourself through some art form. Well, I say some art form because I just don't think music is the only art form. There are many. But let's talk music. And I remember, even though I was kind of happy-ish to those 25 years being away from the guitar, I always felt there was something missing. Don't ask me what it was. I was, things were grand, but I was just going through the motions, working away. Oh, this is good. But there was something missing. And it really was the day I picked up that guitar again and started playing it properly. I felt this warmth and this. I felt like I was coming alive again. Absolutely, that hole, that void was was being filled again, and the clouds parted, and the blue sky was there. And I mean, I'm not making anything like the money I made when I was doing the woodwork and the carpentry days and that. But it just shows you life is not about making money. I'm making enough to get by now. I'm doing okay. But I've never been happier in all my life. And it just goes to show that if I can give a lesson to anybody in life, do in life what your heart tells you to do and give to others. It's all about everybody has a talent and a gift. And our mission on this earth is to share that gift with others, in my opinion. Not about making money. That's a bonus if it comes, and if it doesn't, so what? Because the true inner happiness will become, you will gain from giving some ability that you have that will make other people's lives richer.
Yeah.
And that's something that's probably taken me 50 years to sort of learn. But it's true. Very, very true.
It sounds...
And I've never been happier. And, yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like because it's so much a part of your heart, like it's almost like there's so much love in your relationship with the guitar, with your relationship with the music, and with the language that you're using and what you're trying to communicate. Because that's what, when you said music is a language, that's a tool. A language is a tool. What is being communicated is the meaning or the intention behind the tool. So with you, that very first song, that intention was to honor your friend.
Yes.
Do all of your compositions have a strong intention behind them?
They do, absolutely. Again, for me, music is a language. It's a way that I'm very, very comfortable in expressing myself with. I find it easier and more natural to express myself through music than I do with words. And also, I see music as a very visual experience. When I play music, it kind of takes me away. I am more, how would you say, inspired by thoughts and images in my mind, and I try to paint pictures with music, if that kind of makes sense. I try to put into the list. I try to transport the listener. I try to take them away. It's kind of like reading a book. I mean, if you give 10 people a book and they read it, everybody will put themselves in a certain scenario visually, but they'll all be sort of slightly different, And it's the same with music. It kind of transports you from where you are now to a better place, or what the piece of music is. Go with the music, and it'll take you to a place. But I've always written pieces to describe how I feel. Like a piece I wrote called City Jam, another piece Antarctica, where I tried to create sounds and textures on the guitar that would literally transport the listener, as if close your eyes, you're literally in Antarctica. You can see it, you can feel it, you are there. City Jam, another piece of music where you're in the middle of New York City. There's cars bustling, there's thousands of millions of people running by, it mayhem, chaos. I try to use music to create those images in a people's mind, and I think I've been reasonably successful in doing it, because the feedback I get from people in general about certain pieces that are written, the pieces have done what they said in the tin. It works, and I really get great satisfaction out of playing music in that way, so that I can transport the listener. I can tell them a story. I can bring the music to life visually. And that to me is what music is all about. As opposed to, say, trying to play a piece, sonata by Bach, absolutely technically flawlessly perfect. That doesn't interest me. I play the music in such a way that I try to get into the composer's mind sometimes, and what's he feeling? What's he thinking? How would he feel if I play the piece that way? Am I describing it better than the composer really wanted? I remember a story about the great Isaac Albéniz, the great Spanish composer who composed for piano. And he once said that when he heard his music being played on the guitar, he says, "My music has found its home." Even though he wrote the music on the piano, he felt that really what he was trying to put across, he was nearly playing the piano as if it was a guitar. His music suited the guitar better than the instrument he was actually writing it for.
Wow.
Do you know what I mean? So yeah, so it's and the guitar being such a great instrument as well. I love it because it's something you can carry around anywhere with you easy, and yet it's a whole tool. It's an orchestra. It's a magnificent instrument. It can bond a performer and an audience, or bond two people together through that wonderful instrument. You know, it's amazing, amazing.
Well, I could see you love it. And I know that you've had this amazing response to your music from
Yeah,
individuals, but you've also been really recognized and invited to play all over the world and even in Ireland in the National Concert Hall. Tell us a little bit about the exciting moments of your career before we start to wrap things up a little.
sure. Well, indeed, I've been playing and I've been invited to play in America. It was absolutely fantastic. I mean, I was asked over to play at a festival in Florida, and which was brilliant. And when I arrived over, I was picked up at the airport and treated like a superstar. I couldn't believe it. And I remember being asked to go on a radio station to talk about my music. And normally, when you go on and do an interview on radio, they might play one or two pieces and talk to you for 20 minutes and good luck with the concert and all that. But so the host of the show was interviewing me and talking to me there, and she played a piece of music, and that's great, you know. But what I didn't realize is the whole program was dedicated to Pat Coldrick, the guitarist, which is incredible. I said, "Is it over?" "Oh no, Pat, we have another hour to go. This whole show is for you. We're so happy to." You know, I couldn't believe the response to people abroad, how they thought about my music. I mean, I was the only person really that thought my music was rubbish. You know, it's kind of like Vincent van Gogh cutting his ear off, not realizing that his music or his art was rubbish, but yet the whole world thought it was brilliant. And that's another point that I will say to any musician, is that we as creators, music creators, are probably our own worst critics. You never will hear the music that you write or play the way others will hear it or interpret it. So never judge it yourself. Judge what people say, and not everybody will like it, but don't mind them. There's enough people in the world to build an audience for yourself. You know, there's thousands and thousands of people who will love what you do. Your job is to go and find them as an artist. But Russia, St. Petersburg was another great concert invitation. But the highlight really was the National Concert Hall with the RTE Concert Orchestra, where they invited me, Pat Coldrick, the guy that used the bus in Grafton Street, to play a concert of all his own music back in 2019. And I said, I know I did play the concert hall myself in the John Field Room twice and sold that concert out. But to play in the main auditorium was a big task. You know, gosh, 1,200 people. You know, that's a big audience for a classical guitar concert. But I sold it out.
Amazing.
Which was incredible. I couldn't believe it. And that was the highlight and the greatest buzz of my life, to walk out onto that stage in front of 1,200 people and get a standing ovation. You know, and I was in tears nearly because, you know, 10 years prior to that, I was about a mile down the road in Grafton Street busking. So it's kind of like
it's a rags to riches story.
Well, yeah, but it just shows you if you pursue your dream, which I did. I was fortunate where I did come back to it, and I did work hard at it, and my dream did come true. Because I remember when I said to you earlier in our conversation that I prayed to the God when I was 15, please make me good enough that I can go out in front of an audience and play. I mean, it's like a young kid playing football. You know, his dream would be to play in Wembley in the FA Cup final or something. That happened to me in a musical sense.
Well, I have my own little story, somewhat related. I had been working. Some of you will know that I'm a voice coach now, but before I did this work, I was in my 40s, and I made a prayer. I said around Christmas time, I had been in a local musical in New Ross, and I played Betty from White Christmas, and I just said this prayer: help me spend more time doing music next year. Please tell me how. And 3 weeks later, it's like a voice in my head said, do a singing workshop for adults, right? So like this was like my stepping stone. It wasn't to go straight and busk. It was to actually teach. And I was like, oh no, I'm not a music teacher. My mother is the music teacher in the family. So I knew it wasn't my own brain came up with that. And because I had prayed about it, I kind of had asked for help. I said, okay, well, I better test that idea. And it developed. My whole life has developed now. I do have music out on YouTube and all that kind of thing, but it started with me sharing my passion for singing with other people like me who were adults that wanted to sing, but didn't have any confidence. And that was an amazing experience. So I can really relate to this idea of, here, help me, and then having that somehow responded to is like, it's amazing.
It is amazing, and there you go. And I'm thrilled that you have found your goal. And yes, I mean, as I say, God works in mysterious ways, and if you do want it that badly, you will get it. You will get what you want. So that's interesting, and that's great. I'm delighted that's worked out for you. I mean, as I say to you, there is no better feeling than being able to give what you know to others, that you see that they can enrich their lives from it and enjoying it. It's brilliant, and you are a good teacher, and I maybe you also, maybe we're not academic theoretical experts in the whole thing of music, but we have experience. We have other ways of portraying to others, portraying to others different avenues of music, different interpretations of certain things, that you don't have to completely be immersed in theory to be able to teach music.
Well, that's definitely true.
It's a very simple. Yeah, if you simplify it, it can be a wondrous thing. I think the great Chopin said on his deathbed, he says, the greatest music. This is a person that has written the most complicated, most beautiful music for piano. And he said the best music, it took him a lifetime to realize the greatest thing in music is simplicity.
Well,
you can say as much with 6 notes than you can say in 6,000 notes. And I thought that was an amazing statement to make. From his years and years and years of playing music, you can, if those 3 notes come from deep in the heart, they can mean as much to you as 6,000 notes that are flying by at 100 miles an hour. If that makes sense.
I just love that. A realization on your deathbed is a realization indeed. Yeah. Thank you so much, Pat, for being on the Resonate podcast with me today. Is there anything else you'd like to say to the listeners before we finish up?
Yeah, thank you very much for having me, Aideen. It's been great to talk, and I hope I haven't gone on talking too much. But I just get so passionate about guitar when I talk to people like yourself, music. I mean, we can talk for hours and hours. I'm absolutely thrilled to be invited to the New Ross Guitar Festival. I've been following it for the last few years, and how successful it has become. And I'm really looking forward to going down and performing for you all, because it's part of the country I don't think I've played in before. Yeah, and it's just wonderful, and I can't wait for July to come around. And please spread the word, everybody, and come, and we'll share an hour of really nice music and chat.
Absolutely. And if you're listening to the podcast after July 2024, I'm afraid you'll have to find Pat at a different concert. But we're really excited. I'm from New Ross in County Wexford, and everyone is really excited to have you come. for the New York Guitar Festival this year. And we love your story. We love your music. And thank you so much, Pat, for being on the show. Goodbye.